Alright, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel and welcome back to some more Blood on the Clocktower discourse because we had a special announcement recently over on Twitter. Stephen Medway, the designer of Blood on the Clocktower himself, announced that there is a new character type coming soon. And I wanted to talk about what this could potentially mean and perhaps speculate a little bit on what that might mean for the game going forward. So not only does he mention there's a new character type, but also a piece of art is provided that we're going to get into in a little detail in a bit, and then I'll kind of close out with some predictions on what I think that might mean for the game. But let's talk about type of character. Now, in our regular WhatsApp group when it comes to organizing games, people's knee-jerk reaction to this was a third alignment. Now, a lot of games that are similar to Blood on the Clocktower, Throne of Lies is usually the one that I like to go to because Throne of Lies has a hierarchy for Blue Dragon, which is the good team, and then like the evil team. But then there's also a neutral team of characters that have their own victory condition, and then they will win solitarily independent of the other characters. And because of the way that Throne of Lies handles wins and losses, you as a neutral character can win the game and then leave, and then the other teams can still play to have their own victory conditions happen independently of that. In Clocktower, if somebody wins the game is concluded, which would mean like, haha, I convinced you all to execute me, like the fool in Throne of Lies, where if you convince yourself to get executed, you win. Then you go, well, sucked in, I win, next game. And I think that would play against what Blood on the Clocktower is trying to achieve here. So I think it's definitely not a new alignment type. Stephen has actually said previously that he really wants to go against having great characters like that. And so these are the actual types of characters we have currently. Townsfolk, Outsider, Minion, Demon, which are the main ones on the scripts that you'll see. Travelers, and Fabled. Fabled are a type of character. It's just not necessarily playable by a person. It's just a thing that is added. And when it comes to the coding for scripts to be playing on the online tool, Fabled is listed as a character type. That's kind of where I'm going from with this. And so what new thing could be added here? Well, let's first take a little bit of a look into what the art is going to tell us potentially about what this kind of character is. So it's a green color palette. Now, unless if this is, we have red for evil, blue for good team, and then green to, complete the color pie to really actually be a neutral thing in that way. Or it's a precursor to us getting CMYK afterwards, which I doubt. I think it's actually leaning good because so far the color palettes we have blue, teal, orange, and red as the alignment denotations for the 4 different main character types, and then Traveler is split blue, split red. For something to be neutral color theory wise, it would have to be purple or gray as an absence of color. I actually think green is an indicator that this is leaning towards the good term. Towards a good theme. And they actually look like an elf. They have an elfish appearance. Which makes me think that they might be an ally to the townsfolk against evil, but few in number. And possibly known by all players. Having, elvish ears or whatever would make it really easy to identify that this is a different person from the regular townsfolk. I wonder if all of this is specific and communicated in the design of the art, or if they were just like, give me a character. So it's hard to tell. But it is something. It's maybe a clue to what this new thing might be. And now I have some predictions. Let's have a look. So when this was first announced, I immediately had some ideas as to what a new character type would be in this way. And what I would do mechanically with that if I was tasked with creating one. So I think currently it will be a balancing tool for 9, 12, and 15 player games. Now, if you're a fanatic, you realize that is the 2 outside by default count for player counts. Now, my hunch is that I actually think that those play counts are particularly unbalanced because the idea behind it is that 7 is 0 outsiders, 1 minion, 1 demon. 8 is +1 outsider because it's not enough townsfolk required to need an extra minion. And then 9 is +2 outsiders because it's not quite enough. And then 10 is +1 minion. But is 1 minion worth 3 outsiders? No. I would go to say that a minion is almost not worth 2 outsiders, because if you think about it like this, if you think about the Baron specifically is equal to 2 outsiders, the Poisoner is basically +1 drunk if they select the exact same person every single night, then it's a lot harder to argue that having 2 outsiders is always going to be equal to 1 minion. Some outsiders are really detrimental, like horribly detrimental to the good team. And some outsiders are not so bad. And then kind of how you're balancing as a storyteller, like picking, okay, is this really going to be the thing that just like sinks the whole ship for the good team, and trying to balance it in that way. I think instead you may be given the option to add one of this new character type, so that it goes, let's just call them elves for now. So it's going to go 7 townsfolk, 1 outsider, 1 elf for a 9-player game, which would mean that you would have this new and different character instead of people using travelers to adjust the play count, because having a travel in the game has a different subset of rules, which is kind of gameable in a way. And I think having travelers be the thing that solves the problem for the person who shows up late or has to leave early, and leaning in on making that work well is the better choice, rather than using that as a balancing tool for your player count. And I think that this new character type might solve that problem. Now, as I said, changing the split to only have 1 outsider default at almost every number, which I think is fine. And I think that the new character type will specifically be on the good team. But I think it's going to serve a specific purpose. Everyone will know your character like a traveler. So it's like, let's just say it's the elf, but you might have an ability that comes from a list of things. It kind of like how travelers work. But I think it's trying to make a character type that can be publicly confirmed good and act for the town like the king. Now, the king and the choir boy basically says, I'm the king, and because the choir boy exists, the demon can't kill me without severe repercussion. Therefore, I can come out and be publicly the king, because I am either the demon or the king, because the demon knows who the king is. And so it's creates this thing where like same as like the Widow's Call, like there's an exact single scenario where an evil player can do this without repudiation, basically. So you go, yes, I'm the king, you should come and talk to me, we can, publicly do this around the court. And that's why I brought up Throne of Lies earlier, because that's how Throne of Lies works, except you have a character ability and then you're elected king. People can vote to put you up and to be the king. And certain neutral characters win the game if they're elected to be king, and then like if there's an evil king, they have like a way more detrimental impact on the game and stuff like that. And the king's vote counts differently and all this kind of stuff. Separate to the Clocktower character, the king, it is a position, not a role, that a player can fill, which kind of leads the dialogue of the game. And I think that this is trying to do something in that pantheon where you're looking at a character that can be like really public about what they are and what they're doing, so they might not have an insane ability. My knee-jerk reaction was to have something like the Voodon, where it's everyone knows what your ability does. It affects the game publicly, but passively in some way, where you're not actively doing stuff as this role, you're passively impacting the game in some way, but you're also publicly confirmed as the trade-off. That's my hunch. Because I think some of these things Clocktower has attempted and has not been super successful. The king is a really underplayed character. We talked about that in a previous video where it's just underloved. I don't know why. I think it is a fine character. I don't see anything wrong with it. And so maybe they're trying to work on something that's going to fit in this arena. Now, I could be really wrong. That's kind of the fun of doing a speculation video, where you, the viewer, get to have a look and later completely clown on me if I'm really far off it. But we'll get to see, I guess. I had a short, too short, I think I don't do very often, go up recently because they had announced that they were printing, TPI announced they were printing the Circus, which is all of the stuff that's been released since the Kickstarter and the Kickstarter expansion stuff. People that bought a Grimoire from retail to upgrade and have all the new stuff. But it also included all the stuff that's been released just online since then. So the people that had bought the Kickstarter edition still got some value out of purchasing this object. And they posted a picture that included the princess token, but it was super blurry, it's super difficult to read. People in my WhatsApp group were like, "Oh my god, this is a princess," conspiracy theory for sure. And I posted on Reddit and I was like, "What do you guys think?" I think this is just the huntsman or the acrobat, and everyone was like, "Nope, it's a princess." Also, they have the hermit. Also, they have something else, and this other thing, the wraith, and this other thing. I'm like, "Oh, okay, god damn it." And so it's really fun to speculate about what's happening because you obviously do eventually find out. And sometimes you get to be correct and be like, yay, whatever, And I have some secret information because I was revealed to a lot of the playtest characters really early on. And so I get to, make some cool hunches or whatever. And I get to come on YouTube and make some prediction videos and talk about it. And we get to maybe do some sleuthing, maybe find out some stuff. And then maybe if I am completely right, I get to be like, hell yeah, I am based, I guess. But it is cool to talk about these kind of things because it is talking about the game design of the game. Part of what I think makes my channel different from a lot of other stuff is that we talk about game design through a lot of different categories of things. Like I literally have a series running right now where I am working on making a game a little bit every week, and I walk through the entire process of that. It's called From Computer to Cardboard. Picking a video game that I really like, and I'm coming and making a board game adaptation of it, and I'm talking about what the design process and stuff is like. And looking at what's been done with Clocktower is a really great way for me as professional development to look at what they've done, what succeeded, and what the player sentiment between things is. When we're playing games and something goes wrong and people are like, oh, that kind of sucked, and like kind of taking that in and understanding what was working, what wasn't, how would this change, what could make this better. And I think it's a really good way to approach games in general. It's by playing them, you learn about them, basically. But I think Clocktower is a good example for this. But that's enough of me rambling. I'm going to be doing some other, speculative Clocktower content. I'm also going to be doing a lot of storyteller advice stuff, which I've been doing lately and it's been going well. You guys have been liking it, so I've been trying to work on more of this. So if you are interested in more of that kind of content, I will have a playlist up on the screen which has all the Clocktower stuff on it, and you can check it out and go and have a look at some of the commentary type stuff that I make. I will also just put up a random video up on the screen. It might just be a playthrough video of Clocktower. It might be me making some games, me playing some games, some other cool stuff. We do a lot here on the channel. It's not just Clocktower. And we upload every single day. So there's always something going on for you to potentially check out. And because of that, you should maybe consider clicking the subscribe button, which makes all this hard work that I've put into the channel potentially worthwhile, because I spend a lot of time working on and preparing this kind of stuff. So stick around, and you can maybe clown on me later when we find out that it's actually the insider, not the outsider, that's being released as the new character type.